That's not true. People are gonna be down there starting. So.
I don't know her.
City Council will come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Abishell?
Here.
Rogers?
Here.
Schmidt?
Here.
Whitaker?
Here.
Wright? Godwin?
Here.
Hensley?
Okay, this is a special session of Greenville City Council work session, actually, for the Committee of the Whole to work on issues regarding the sidewalk situation, gathering information for determining the need for the resolution of necessity for the sidewalk replacement project. This is a meeting in the public. It is not for the public. So this will be a discussion of city council members only. Who needs to get started? I will open the floor and people can ask questions or yes, ma'am.
I want to ask a couple questions.
Okay.
Reading this, we already have something on the books
Reading that.
for the sidewalks, you know, for us.
That's in the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
So if we already have something on the books, why are we continually talking about this? Why don't we just enforce what we already have?
Good point.
Because this, to me, is a waste of time since we already have it on the books. Let's just enforce it.
Yeah. Have any letters been sent out to any residents regarding replacing or repairing sidewalks to this point?
Just notifying them of the special meeting that we had at Memorial Hall.
Okay, but nothing as far as stating that your sidewalk at this particular residence is in disrepair and it needs to be brought up to code with present city.
Correct, that has not been sent.
Excuse me.
I had a
Special courier bring my notice.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That's it.
Tip.
No tip.
He owes you one.
I didn't see any tip. You'll give me that $100 later.
So, I guess my concern is that statements have been made, you know, we've seen sidewalks in disrepair and it's happened. Why haven't we contacted the people who have done, not kept up their sidewalks and told them that they need to replace or repair them? I guess that's my question, and I think Mrs. Haldershell's as well.
I mean, I feel like we're beating
So
a
the-
dead horse.
The sidewalk ordinance that we're referring to and the revised code that you have here references assessment. There's a procedure for assessment. And the first procedure for assessment is the resolution of necessity. And that's what Mr. Burkett referenced as far as the reason for this meeting. So if it's council's decision to assess, and it is council's decision, then a resolution of necessity needs to be passed with certain stipulations and
But assessment only needs to be done if the property owner does not repair their sidewalk. And it has to be done for them, quote, by the city, at which time we determine, or somebody determines, what the cost to that property owner would be. And then a resolution of necessity would have to be put in place to assess that person, that property.
again, referencing the ordinance in place and the order of events and the way things happen. And if they do not happen accordingly,
What
then
ordinance is that?
which also is in line with ORC 729.
Right. Well, what is our ordinance number?
0101.
0101. Okay. Now, if you go back to 014, 40, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 0101 pertaining to the adoption of a sidewalk policy for the city of Greenville, Ohio. And that was passed the 20th day of March 2001. It says the ordinance number 0101 passed the second day of January 2001 pertaining to the adoption of a sidewalk policy for the city of Greenville, Ohio, be and the same hereby is repealed in its entirety. And that was passed on March the 3rd, 01, signed by Alan Hallberg, President of Council, Nancy Myers, Clerk, and Richard Dave Reamer, Mayor. So that kind of takes care of 0101. That it?
It still follows the procedure of Ohio Revised Code and how we assess. If council chooses not to want to assess, then that's what needs to be decided tonight.
Well,
Or
are we
whenever.
going to, who's proposing that all of the sidewalks be replaced by the city?
I'd
Is
like to know
anyone doing
that.
that?
I would like to know that.
Where's that proposal coming from? That all the sidewalks that are in need of repair be done by the city and assessed to the property owner?
Hasn't been a proposal for
Pardon?
that. Hasn't been a proposal that I know of for that.
Okay. Why is that? I mean,
Well, I feared that's where we hopefully would come to. We decide on whether we would do that or not. That's what discussion's for, right?
Where did the discussion originate?
Well, I don't know, probably from me somewhat. I've always wanted to get sidewalks repaired in the city.
but all you have to do is contact the property owner and say, repair your sidewalks. That's within your prerogative as the mayor, right?
And then what happens if they don't do it?
Then the city does it and assesses them.
Do we have the money to do that?
Well, you see, well, do we have the money to do any of this? That's my question.
Right, and that's something that you guys needed to think about and work on, decide whether we're gonna spend some money to do it as a council?
In 01, 02, that was the date. I prepared a letter. There are 75.6 miles of streets within the city. The proposal at that time was to put sidewalks on both sides of the streets, which equates to 151.2 miles. At $13 per foot for curbs and $14 per foot for sidewalks. Total value in it is in excess of $21.5 million to do all of that job that this committee report had recommended to the council. And I'm sure it would be far different today because this is 2001 figures out of the engineer's office at that time.
Sure.
So, where do you come up with 21 or 25 million dollars to do sidewalks?
I've never heard anybody discuss or think about trying to do it all at once.
Well,
And that proposal was to add sidewalks, correct?
it was to add sidewalks.
That's not what
repair.
this is.
This isn't
about
about
repairing
adding sidewalks.
Pardon?
This is about repairing
What
sidewalks.
is about adding them in areas where there were no sidewalks
Right.
and also repairing.
Right.
What
That was,
was-
but that's not what I presented to council. That's not what council approved choice one to do. Has nothing about to do with adding sidewalk.
Okay, gang, speak up.
All right, it seems to me like we're not talking about adding sidewalks at all. It seemed to me like Kurt's proposal way back was to take the sidewalks that are existing and see if they met code, and if they didn't, choice one went out and marked them. And we're giving the option to the homeowner to repair it on their own, simply, or if they don't, we fix it and it gets assessed back to them. And the whole object of the public hearing at Memorial Hall was to let people air their opinions about that. And we had that hearing, and now we are to consider what their concerns were. A lot of people indicated that they would have trouble affording that, maybe. That's what we need to do. We need to figure out how we're going to address that issue, because there's a lot of people that would be able to afford it, that indicated that they would, and now the blank check is, what is the amount going to be that we're going to be having to spend next year in repairing of these sidewalks, what, in the spring, Kurt, like in April or May or whenever?
Whenever council chooses.
And that's the unknown quantity. How much, are 50% of the people going to repair their sidewalks in this first section? We're not talking about the whole city, by the way. Kurt presented a program where we're going to do this in a 10-year program and divvy it up, by areas that he's designated in his proposal to us back when.
Yeah,
Can I-
hopefully, 10 years, we have the city sectioned off. Chad worked on it and come up with that picture that shows 10 sections. And somewhere along the line, the conception was made in people's minds that it's 10 years. It doesn't necessarily have to be 10
No, it
years.
doesn't.
I mean, it just looked like it on paper. If we do decide to do a major project on sidewalks to repair them, that if we do assessments, some of that money's going to start coming in a couple of years. And we can use that money to continue to do more. So it's not necessarily 10 years. Sure, it's going to take a long time. But why do we want to wait till they're all deteriorated and gone?
But my question is, why haven't notices been sent to people who we have found that have deteriorating sidewalks? And asked them to repair them?
We've been waiting for this
But
discussion.
we've
To
waited forever.
What do you want to do? How many do you want to do, John? You want to do 3 or 4, and then next month we'll do a couple more?
That was supposed to be your recommendation as administration to council.
Well, our recommendation is to do the project, and then it takes money and it takes the time for this council to decide on what to do with it.
I think really what John's asking is and I'm curious because I didn't know it was repealed, but why did they pass this ordinance back in January of 2001 and then repeal it 2 months later?
Because I think they hadn't researched the parameters of the cost and the involvement that what would be involved in doing the whole city.
And I agree with
And
that.
that is,
But I
these
think,
figures are from the
I think
industry.
what could have happened was this ordinance, wherever it came from 18 years ago, probably should have been very explicit in what's expected of the homeowner, and this thing could have been enforced all along. But if it was repealed in March, we have nothing. We have nothing.
You have the Ohio Revised Code.
Well, that's true.
And,
So-
and this,
so I guess-
all this ordinance did was copied right out of the Ohio Revised Code.
Yeah. So why haven't we all along, and I'm not saying anything to anybody around here right now, but going back to 2001 when the problem was identified clearly with this ordinance, why haven't we been doing this all along when the cost of this was a lot cheaper for a lot of people if you do it along the way? Now we waited till we're in a situation where, if we don't do anything, there's going to be people that could get hurt or whatever. I'm not going to open up a Pandora's box with that. But the sidewalks look bad in areas. There's a lot of sidewalks that look great in areas, and that's great. But we have to maintain our sidewalks, and we haven't been doing it, and now we're put in a position to act on it, one way or the other. If we don't, it's just going to get worse.
Can I speak to the finances on this?
Yes.
Which I thought was one of the reasons that we were getting together for this. I reviewed the tentative CIP funding for 2020, because we were supposed to start this project, notify people, and if they had not done it by spring of next year, then we were going to follow through with the assessment. But we needed to come up with an initial figure that we could have in CIP to use toward this beginning phase. So basically, I was looking at the CIP funding for 2020, and we allocated $500,000 toward the sidewalk replacement program. This figure supposes that only 25% of the affected property owners will pay for the sidewalk improvements themselves. We believe that 25% is on the low side, basically. And also, the engineer's estimate that was given to us by Choice One Realty for Phase 1 was on the high end as well. So with those two considerations in mind, we felt that the $500,000 would be more than enough to cover the needs of the sidewalk program for 2020, as well as the city's other CIP needs, so that we wouldn't be shorting anybody. I also recommend that the assessment period, if we're going to follow through on this program, be at least 3 years, but no more than 5 years. And we need to keep the funds recycling back into the program so that we can continue on to other phases. And that's why I'm suggesting that we not go beyond 5 years. I would suggest 3, but like I said, we could go as long as 5 years to make this workable. And then I also recommend that we institute an interest rate on any sidewalks assessed. Currently, the prime right now is 5.5%, and I would use that prime rate when the assessments are turned over to the county for inclusion on the property owner's real estate taxes. Including interest onto the assessment has a twofold effect. First of all, we really should be charging those property owners for the use of city funds during the assessment period. And secondly, we want to encourage property owners to go ahead and pay for the sidewalk improvements themselves and not allow the city to go ahead and front the money for them. So,
Be a lot cheaper.
like I said, I wanted to speak to the finance end of it. We had also talked at one time about what about the folks that are in desperate need or don't have the monies. There are programs in other communities where they check on people's income tax, what they're earning. If they hit a low threshold, they are given some kind of dispensation. That's for a future discussion, but that's something that we could look at down the road. So I don't think that's something that we need to consider right at this moment, but I felt like allocating the money and setting up the assessment period and considering interest were things that we really should be talking about up front and that people should know about when they're being, told that they need to fix their sidewalks. So they need to know, what actual dollar figures are going to be involved for them should they decide to do that. And that does not include, that interest rate does not include the, what is it called, there's a
Handling fee.
handling
Administrative
fee.
fee.
Yes, that the county will assess, and I believe that's 3%. We talked to the county auditor about that, so.
One village here in the county assesses 15% administrative fee
That's correct, and
on, with their, what I would say, their,
yeah, correct, and basically that, they make it so unfavorable to go ahead and have it assessed that most people would want to just go ahead and do it themselves. So I don't know that I would agree with going that high, but I guess that's a decision that you can
Was that-
ultimately make.
I might note that 15%, I think we were all in the
Same
same
meeting.
meeting that we heard that discussion. Does not include the county's 3%, so in actuality, it's 18%.
18%.
So it gets pretty steep, so, yeah.
That 10-year period came from this ordinance it states not to exceed 10 years.
Right.
That's where that came from.
Right.
I don't think there was
And
anything.
I will tell you that we have had sidewalk assessments in the past, and they did not go over 5 years, so just for an informational.
Thanks for that research. Thank you.
So, so anyway, those are my recommendations finance-wise, so.
But that is only needed if, and when the assessments have to be made, right?
Sure.
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. But
And-
again, I said, the only reason I think people should know in advance what's going to be expected of them, should they decide to allow the city to go ahead and do the work for them and then be assessed on their taxes. Yes.
Nothing like this is fun. I mean, you know, but we have to maintain our infrastructure, our city, and it's going to boil down to the future. What kind of a future do we want to have here in Greenville 10 years from now? Where do you see the city? We want to have crumbling sidewalks and crumbling streets, or we want to have the city presentable to people moving into the city, to keeping it vibrant, to bringing in new business? If you see crumbling sidewalks all over the place and streets with potholes, you're probably not going to attract much. So, I mean, that's what we really have to ask ourselves, and what kind of city do you want to live in? You know, the person that needs to fix your sidewalk, I would ask you that. Do you want to live in a city like that, or do you want to, you know, unfortunately, that's part of the cost of living anywhere, not just in Greenville, but you have to maintain your home and be a good citizen, and I guess that's what we're kind of pushed up against, because this has been ignored for so long. Here we are. This is what we got to deal with. It's unfortunate, probably more so for some than others, but you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to take care of this problem, that if they need to fix their sidewalk on their own, they'll do it, and hopefully the more the merrier, so it's less harsh on our budget.
It was, there was one of the things that we tossed around, or we talked about, that's been brought up, you know, the people replacing their sidewalks. The city mandates that you gotta get a bond, and I checked on the bond, it's around $100 to go get a bond. Then the permit for the city of Greenville is $60. And, you know, if somebody goes out and replaces their sidewalk, they're already spending a bunch of money to get that done, and it's improved. If they're replacing the existing sidewalk, is there, you know, I think we need to look at maybe like waiving the fees to those people for that.
For the bonds and the permit.
Replace, yeah, to replace the existing sidewalks that they're doing, not new sidewalks, but
Just replacing the sidewalk that they have. I could,
Good.
A bond is an insurance policy, for lack of better terms. So if I'm replacing my sidewalk, the city requires me to get a bond. That bond says, Mr. Homeowner, you go hire your contractor. If your contractor doesn't do it right, the city holds onto that bond, and they can go cash that bond in and come back and do the work appropriately. In this case, we could waive it. Mr. Homeowner goes out, has a sidewalk replaced. Well, what happens if his contractor, let's say, puts it in incorrectly? What recourse do they have? Well, the city's already coming along and says, well, this sidewalk's deficient. We're going to rip it out, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to assess you. So if he ended up paying his contractor, now he ends up paying twice. Now, that $100 is payable to the insurance company, not the city of
yeah, it
Greenville.
goes to,
I would leave it if the property owner, however you want to do it, if the property owner wants to have that insurance policy, great. If they don't, then we're not, but the understanding's there is that when the project's done, the sidewalks are going to be put in per city standards.
I'm saying a person that owns his own
What was
house.
that last statement? The sidewalk's gonna be.
Will be put in per city standards. So if a
Right.
contractor were to put it in incorrectly and they didn't have a bond, the city's going to come along, tear it out, redo it, and charge the homeowner again.
I'm not necessarily saying a contractor, I'm saying if the person is a homeowner and does his own.
Same thing.
Well, I know it's gonna be the same thing,
same
but
thing.
you still have an inspector that's gonna go down there and inspect it.
Right.
Right. You just.
It's gonna be a half inch below the 3.5 inch 2x4 is what I was told. And if any rocks are touching that 2x4, he's gonna reject it and they gotta fix it.
Well, like I said, it's an insurance policy.
We do have the specifications for the sidewalk construction
Correct.
Yes.
in place.
Correct.
And
That's it.
so when we send out notices to the homeowners, they should get those.
They will. And that's the second part of why you ask why we go through this process in order to assess. Not only does the property owner have to be notified of what the problem is, but they have to be, there's a couple other things that they have to be notified in the same way that you're notified for a civil case. So they're even gonna get a certified mail, or we're gonna hand deliver it via the police department. They need to know where the plans and specifications are kept on file. They need to know the time in which the affected property owner may complete the sidewalks. And then state that if, let them know in writing up front that if they do not construct or repair such sidewalks in accordance with the plans and specifications and within such time, the city of Greenville shall do so and shall thereafter assess. So that's kind of why we're going through this process. It is about notifying the homeowner, but it's also if council's choice is to assess, and it has to be their choice, that we can notify the homeowner on the front end, not after they've been told they need to replace the sidewalk.
Further questions?
Are you saying how much they're gonna be assessed?
Not yet, we don't know. We're going to get, that's why, these are just a couple examples. Back. Pass those around. But that would also be sent. It's a picture of their property. It's a picture of where the sidewalk that needs to be replaced is at, how much. It gives the engineer's estimate.
The one section's $280 according to the one paper that I got.
Based on the square foot.
Yeah. And the city's standard is $55 a foot for sidewalk. For the bond.
That's for the bond.
Now, when Choice One did the engineering, you said they did it on the high end. Can they do some kind of a bid on, like a ghost bid, to find out the price of concrete?
Well, I mean, we have
Or you don't
we
scare
can total
people.
everything up by square foot. The issue is that you have so much, a little bit here, a little bit there. You don't have long runs.
Yeah,
So
I-
you're probably gonna pay a little bit more per square foot.
And I mean, it wouldn't scare the homeowner that much. Instead of 7,000, it could be 3,000 for their sidewalk out in
The
front of their
intent
house.
was if they receive that letter, they're gonna get estimates. And then they're gonna find out, okay, this is what somebody's going to charge me to do it.
There's some people I talked to, they said, man, that's just way out of line for the price. And, kind of beat them off.
And what?
Made them mad. They said, the comment he made to me was the city's making money. And I said, the city ain't making nothing.
He's not making any money, because, so what happens is, if this is enacted, and these letters are sent out, and folks do not do the work, we go out, we recalculate, maybe some do, some don't. We calculate what needs to be done, we put that together in a bid, and we advertise for bid this project. And however many contractors want to bid on it, will give us the square foot price.
We don't intend on doing any of the work ourselves? I
We
mean,
do not currently have the manpower to do this ourselves. Now, if between now and next spring, and budget will allow to hire a concrete crew that we want to put on staff after the first of the year, and we budget for it, is that a possibility? Absolutely. And we wouldn't have to go through the bid process.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry. When Clarence was talking about waiving the bond, okay, I could see that point, maybe that, keep that. How much is a permit? What's the difference between a
$60.
permit and a bond?
It's this piece of paper, it's $60.
I could see we could waive that, but you
Wait,
still gotta
yeah,
get a permit.
that's what I'm,
They need a permit, but we could waive it.
We could waive the fee.
Goes on the permit to description of what they're going to do.
Right. We'd still want them to come in and fill out the permit form, turn it in, get the little piece of paper that they hang in their window prior to the work being done. Because that is the only mechanism we have to know who's doing what and being able to inspect it at the time that the work's being done.
that would help a little.
The permit would be needed, we just don't need to charge them the
Yeah.
fee.
Right. And the $60, that's what that is doing. That's paying for that inspector to go out and basically his time, the gas, whatever, to go out and inspect it.
But that, you gotta add into that, that's only in our project area. I mean, if there's somebody across town is just gonna repair their sidewalk, I think they should still have a permit.
Right.
And I don't know, bond or, we can do either way, it doesn't matter to me, but if they're not into that area where we're doing repairs, where a contractor has given us estimates to send to the people, should we do that everywhere?
I think it ought to be in Old City.
I don't think so.
Because if I go and replace, mine's in 2 years, next year, not next year, but the year after that. And I got 3 properties in that area that's gonna have to be replaced. And, you know, that's, you know, if I wanna replace them next year, you know, why not? Do them now, do them then, instead of waiting another year.
Right.
Yeah, the city's gonna benefit by a newer sidewalk in there before it's supposed to be. And if somebody up here on 3rd Street over here that's 4 years away from here that replaces their sidewalk, it's all grass and little chunks of concrete, you know, why should they have to go get a permit if they're sitting there improving their property and the city's gonna benefit from a new sidewalk? I'm saying replacing any existing sidewalk, not a new one, any existing sidewalk, it benefits the city, period. And that's what we're here for tonight. Get the sidewalks put in and do it the cheapest we can for the citizens in Greenville. What we need to do.
But you're still incurring a cost, Clarence.
I know, but
Okay.
I'm saying, why do we want to put more cost on them? You know, we got a guy here that does that all day long. You know, he's getting paid no matter if he's going out and inspecting that or not.
Well, then, I guess you guys can vote on taking away that fee for permits then.
For sidewalks that are being
Sidewalks,
replaced.
sure.
That's what you're saying, right, Clarence?
Yeah.
Just waive the fee for permits on sidewalks.
The $100 bond, you know, my insurance company, State Farm, said that, yeah, sure, send them all over here, we'll do them all. I mean, they make money at it, but yeah, go ahead.
Having a bond, I completely see to keep
I
that.
think give them the
Well,
option.
That is.
The bond's a smart thing to do, I mean, on
That's
behalf of the
safety.
homeowner.
If you don't want to charge anybody for a permit, then do away with it.
If they're dead sure their guy's gonna do it right, okay,
Yeah, I mean,
but what if he does it wrong?
Yeah, I gotta replace curb, and that's another can of worms we're gonna get into in the second year. Because when Kurt was talking about just sidewalks, when you start getting into a curb, was it 16 inches deep? You gotta go?
18, yeah.
Yeah, or 18 inches deep. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot more than that $500,000 project when you start getting into curbs and sidewalks. Because the bond for curbs, straight curbs and gutters is $60 a foot for the bond.
$50 a foot?
Yeah, $60 a foot. That's just for the bond. That's not the cost of the
Yeah,
concrete.
That's the total of the bond. That's not what the bond's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
So there, if you have 20
It's-
feet, lineal feet of curb, it's $60 times 20. Okay, what is that, 1,200? Right?
Yeah.
So you have to obtain a $1,200 bond. I don't know what your insurance company's gonna charge you for a $1,200 bond.
$1,000 bond was $100.
Okay.
That was just for sidewalks, not
Right.
counting curbs.
So my question, Mr. Mayor, is at what point in time are you or the rest of the administration, whomever, are going to start sending out notices to people to repair their sidewalks? With all the parameters we've talked about, you must meet this criteria, has to be done. If something's done, then it'll be done for you and assessed to you.
If this council decides not to put any money to it, I guess we'll pick up 4 or 5 houses or residents and we'll send letters out pretty soon. If that's all you want done.
But isn't that where you start?
Oh, how? I want to get a project going. Somebody's got to decide with this council whether there's going to be money enough to do that.
But there only is going to be money expended if we have to do the work and assess the landowner, correct?
So you're going to decide then, okay, as council, that we're going to do it?
But isn't that what's in the books right now?
We don't have the resources to do any more than a couple, maybe more than that. If that's what council wants to have done, then that's fine, we'll do that.
Now, you mentioned that there are a proposal for $500,000 in the CIP fund for sidewalk issue,
Correct,
starting in 2020.
correct.
Okay.
That, based on this phase one that we have been talking about all along, what would be the maximum that we would possibly have to put into it? And like I said, that, we supposed just 25% of the homeowners would do their own sidewalks. And I think that's definitely low. I think you'll see a larger number than that.
The homeowners in that first zone.
In that first zone, correct. We cannot bite off the whole thing at
No
one
way.
time. There's just no way that we can do that. So, like I said, there should be adequate money to fund this first phase and to cover it. And hopefully, we'll have, like I said, I really expect more than just the 25% to handle their own sidewalks. And then, along with the interest that's going to be added, that more of an encouragement for them to go ahead and do their own sidewalks. So I think, as long as everybody is on board with us moving forward with this, like I said, I believe that there are funds to start this up and then hopefully to keep it going on a year-to-year basis until we get caught up. And I know that's going to take a while, but hopefully, like I said, if we do a shorter assessment period, we should keep the money recycling. So that would definitely be my recommendation, that we do that.
Now, I have another question. I'm going to throw out a real firecracker close to the 4th of July. What's the possibility of floating a bond issue for sidewalk repair for the entire city? Or not a bond issue, but a tax levy?
I've wondered about
What does a
that.
mill generate in the city? Do you know? I put
Yeah,
you on the
you're
spot.
putting me on the spot. I don't know.
Yeah.
5 mills, again, at a prior rate that we just renewed, brings in less than $1 million.
Less than a mill.
Less than $1 million.
5 mills.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
But
only-
those values are older.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what a 1 mil
Right.
at today's value would do.
However, one thing I'd say, I've heard people talking about this. I've heard a lot of people say, I am not going to vote on a levy where I have to pay for other people's sidewalks and not my own. I mean, that's just the way people are.
Passing a
Wanna
bond
make
issue's
everyone
tough
happy no matter
anyway.
what.
But
A bond issue
Yeah.
is going to be tough, so.
Yeah.
I wish we had the opportunity. I remember I brought it up about a municipal sales tax, but we can't do that in Ohio. It's done in other states, and that's why I brought that up that one time, Kurt. And you brought it to my attention that it would have to be countywide. Is that right?
Correct.
And why would people in
I
New
think their sales tax,
Madrid?
they're maxed out on their sales
That would be
tax.
another thing of why
They
would somebody
wouldn't.
pay for
No way that
somebody
would
else's.
pass. No way that would pass. But it's too bad. It's too bad we can't do that here. That would be a good answer to it.
So Roxanne, the total interest for somebody doing that would be 8.5?
No.
Well, the prime right now, I said is 5.5.
Yeah, now it could go up next year.
Then
But
3%.
it may be more than that when we come to assess. I mean, I would
Yeah.
suggest keeping it at prime. And then, like I said, they also charge another 3% administration fee. And the county does that
Yeah.
Is that a one-time fee, or is that every year?
every year.
That you collect? So it's 3% on whatever the balance is?
Pardon?
Right, but if, say you had 3,000 this year and you paid off 1,000, you got 2,000 next year, it's only 3% on 2,000 the next year?
On the payment.
It's on the,
Yeah, it's on the payment,
it's not on the, okay.
right.
I'm still, I mean, I think there's a definite need, no doubt about that, but I'm having a hard time with the breaking it down into sections and taking this longer period of time when I know there's something in section 8, 9, or 10 that's in bad shape now, and if we push it that many years down the road,
It's gonna be worse.
it's gonna be really bad. I mean, there's a couple properties that I see on a daily basis that I drive by, that the tree roots or the sidewalks, there's no possible way someone could walk down through those or push any type of a stroller or anything like that. It's,
I'd ask-
what would it be, 6 years or 8 years from now?
What?
I had asked you earlier, Mr. Garrison, about, what we got from Choice One for our $30,000. We ran around and they sprayed paint on different sidewalks around the first section. And I said, well, what if they did the whole city? Oh, it'd be a lot more than that. We have people in the city of Greenville, the maintenance department, that they drive these streets all the time. And wasn't it you that come up with a new app that on somebody's phone, you can take a little picture and send it to somebody and say, hey, this needs repaired, and you could catalog all that. Why would we need to have to pay some engineering firm to do that? We got people right here in the city that can do that.
It's not just identifying where they're at. It's showing what we have to have, the specs and
That map work that you
locations
saw
and-
right there, that was a part of it. Research at the county courthouse for parcel numbers and matching them up to houses, that was a part of it. And they didn't charge it, we signed a $30,000 contract. They've billed us $20,000 and change at this point, and we're pretty much done with this section. I guess I would ask, can we assess without a resolution of necessity?
I don't think so.
And can we complete the work and then pass the resolution of necessity?
I don't believe that's what he's asking you to do at all. He's asking you to inform people to fix their sidewalk. If they fail to, then a resolution of necessity would be passed. Then the work goes.
So we would pass the resolution of necessity, give them another period of time, notify them, give them another period of time, and because
after they-
I believe it says you have to give them at least 30 days.
Upon the failure of owners to construct a repair, that's when you go through the assessment process.
I would say it's probably fair to assume that some will fail to do it. So why not pass that resolution of necessity now for those that will fail to do it?
You cannot pass a blanket resolution, can you? Doesn't it have to be for each specific case?
You'd have to know what it was, how much it was.
Right, how much it was, how many feet, and what the cost was, and
Basically, the information that I've provided tonight is random samples would have to be completed for each area per parcel before it could be,
What is this?
that would be an exhibit to the resolution of necessity.
Okay.
How many are gonna do it or not do it?
Yeah.
And how big a disincentive for not doing it do you wanna create? We talked about other communities that charge a whole bunch to encourage people, shall we say. Because it'd be a whole lot cheaper. That's probably what you should really be thinking about, is how much disincentive do you wanna create to not do it?
So if we want to do the entire city, and we want to do it all at once, and we know that we don't have the money in the bank, we're most likely not going to pass a bond levy and have the property owners approve a bond levy for money coming in. Why not obtain a bond, and whomever doesn't do the work will simply pass on the interest rate and whatever administrative fees goes along with obtaining that municipal bond and do it all at once. The assessment payments would make the bond payment each year.
what kind of bond would you have to pass?
So calculate what that number is right now.
Right, again, we would have to go out and do that. And no, I would say we do not have the city resources to do what you have in front of you to calculate that number. Or we won't do anything else, if that's what we want to focus on.
Well, council, this is your decision.
I like the program. The the thing that you proposed to us. I mean, to try to do the whole thing at one time is like almost, to me, unfathomable. But at the same time, if we make it known what the expectations are, you know, what the fee's gonna be and all that, the interest rate's gonna be and all that, someone that lives in the eighth year area might be incentivized to just go ahead and fix your sidewalk like we're gonna ask you to do 8 years from now, fix it now. So they don't face that.
There's a lot of people that know they need fixed now and they're not doing.
Well,
anything about it.
that's
You know,
because
there's
nobody's
discussions coming up
enforcing
and
anything, that's
yeah.
why.
We've had meeting after meeting, though, so they know it's being discussed and nothing's happening.
Again, I can understand, you know, that 18 years ago, the city was probably not in a financial shape to do this program, but they took a look at it anyway. Something told them to take a look at this. And in my mind, they should have been enforcing the statute all along. And now we're in this shape. Now we're here. What do? We let it go, or do we fix them? I say we institute the program, and then when we find out who hasn't fixed their sidewalks at the time, then that's the time we pass the resolutions of necessity, is that right? Yeah? Or did I misunderstand?
If you want to follow the plan that we have now, we pass the resolution of necessity based upon the work that's already been done for that section.
And the work that's already been done is just simply marking the sidewalks, right?
And cataloging and describing the areas, and that is all electronically and would be sent to Mr. Brand, and all you'd have to do is write the legislation that would be attached to it and an exhibit, and it can be approved by council.
But then that, to me, says that we're gonna fix them all, period. The city is going to do that and upfront all of the money.
No, it's telling them what you want them to know. You have to fix your sidewalk. This is the area that's deficient. City's telling you to fix the sidewalk. If you don't do it by a certain day, and I don't know what that day is that day April 30th of 2020? Is it May 31st, whatever day? After that point, then, and it's not done, then the city will come back, complete the work, and then it would be assessed.
Now, good. If we don't have the manpower to do it now, why would we have the manpower to do it then?
Because the manpower for what? Let me clarify
To fix
that.
the sidewalks.
That's going to, when
They get to the
these,
point where
these
it's
papers
done.
are sent out, it's cataloged, we have a record of what needs to be fixed. If on whatever day is set, it is not, we will go back and we will review, did you fix your sidewalks? If they did not, we will accumulate all of those, put them together, and we will bid it out as a project. The city's not going to do the work. The city is going to hire a contractor per the bid process to complete the work. Unless council, and Mr. Schmidt just mentioned it, wants to hire or employ a concrete crew that does nothing but concrete. But on top of that, now we're paying workers' comp, insurance, more
All
equipment.
kinds of stuff.
I don't know that that's the most feasible route to go.
We already do concrete work.
Right, we can't keep
We
up
have
with what we need to
we
do
have
for
a trailer
paving.
that's full of concrete
But
equipment.
we can't keep up with what we need to
I
do for
know.
paving.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we got equipment, we have people doing it.
We do. We need more people. If this, you want to do this.
So Kurt, that resolution of necessity states, verbatim, states what you just said, covers up that whole thing, what you just said, right?
It's in ORC 729. I'm not
Okay.
making it up. I mean,
Well, no, I didn't say you were.
It's a plan.
I didn't know. That's what would be in
It's a
the,
step-by-step process, and if we don't follow the step, somebody challenges the assessment, we bought it.
that's what would be in the, resolution of necessity.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Kurt. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you need tonight to get this going?
Did anybody bring this along? Even if it's repealed. I know Mr. Berger has it.
Oh, I've got it.
Anybody bring this along? Under the sidewalk assessment policy, number 5, Roman numeral, the bottom of that section is number 5. There's A, B, C, and D, and E. Those are all what needs to be done before we can pass the resolution of necessity.
It's on bottom, page 7, right?
Yeah, bottom page 7.
I don't know how many others may be in the city of Greenville, but in my situation in front of my house, my sidewalk goes clear out to the pavement. There is no curbing. So how would that be treated?
It's just a sidewalk you would form on top of the street.
Okay.
You would secure your form to the street and you would pour to it.
That's the way it is now, you know. And I thought, well, you know, if there has to be a curb there, that's gonna look odd because I've got about 3, maybe 4 sections.
Ideally, we would like to have a curb, but yeah, there are some areas and
Yeah, I'm sure there's some areas other than just mine too.
So when Choice One did the work that they've done so far, they have only really analyzed the one section. They've not
correct.
looked at, I
Correct.
mean, they've not had them look at anything else at all at this point.
Correct.
So if we move on with this proposal and we go on to the next section, whether it's next year or 2 years, whatever it takes, then we would have to hire them each time.
We would hire someone, whether it's them or,
I mean-
you know, the hiring the, you know, we say we hired an engineer and the perception may be that we had an engineer actually out there marking. No, we hired an engineer, we hired a consultant firm and their employees went out and did that. They have those that are specialists in GIS and that's what they did. They took their GIS equipment out there and which puts points on a map and they
No, I'm
typed
not
in their
questioning
computer
that.
what
I'm
the.
just asking-
Yeah, but the fee is going to be ongoing unless we choose to staff accordingly.
Right.
And I
mean,
think, you know,
'cause-
it's no different in planning and zoning to add staff than in the street department. With staff comes other associated costs. But could we? Absolutely,
Yeah, that's just what I was
yeah.
curious about, trying to do.
We actually already own 2 sets of the GIS equipment. We have the mapping software from the county. It's just a matter, they would go out, they would identify, they'd bring that back. They would match parcel numbers to what they located. Prepare that same type of document.
Would you anticipate, like section 2, like you're saying right now, we're roughly $20,000 in ballpark. Would you anticipate each section costing?
No,
That same
no,
amount, or do you
because
think
I
it'd be
don't,
less if we
you know,
got-
I think
how
like,
long they
I
can-
don't know, do you have the map in front of you?
I-
Okay.
And they've never
So,
done it.
section 1, labeled to 2020, very dense area that has a lot of sidewalk. Same way with section 2, 3. You get up north, section 10, the north end, section 9. Not all those areas currently have sidewalks. So, and that's why some of those areas are a little bit bigger, just because there's less sidewalk and.
Hopes of even in and out a little.
Right.
Residents and more sparse.
Now, you know, and that's the other thing too. If you know, I don't know how much of that engineering cost can be assessed. You know,
Yeah, well, I think we gotta be careful. I mean,
We don't want to stress too far.
yeah, I mean, we can't ask for too much. 3 years is, you know, for someone that may be struggling, if they get a, you know, $5,000 bill, I would like to go at least 5. I mean, a lot of people can handle it, but there's some that will.
Well, certainly we encourage people to do less time, but
Sure.
definitely,
Oh, yeah.
we can definitely go 5. I mean,
I agree with Roxanne.
that's a
5 years.
recommendation from us. to do.
Right.
I agree with Roxanne, 5 years.
5.
Yeah.
She was
Some people
proposing
want to do it earlier.
3 to 5,
From
yeah.
3 to
Yeah,
5.
some will. Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just,
Then we'll have more money
Trying to look
back
at both.
into the coffer to start
Roxanne?
doing more.
right.
Let's all kind of pay attention that we're getting side things going on here and we're going to miss something.
Did you
Go
say
ahead.
3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years.
And
I
you
recommend
5?
3.
Oh, you recommend 3, okay.
Don't go, but I'm just
Don't go
saying, don't
past
go
5.
beyond 5.
Okay. The auditor knows what she's doing, let's go with 3.
I guess what what you're saying then, the resolution of necessity that you think is necessary for this first thing includes all of this stuff here, right? There's 13 pages of.
It includes the section 1 as identified with the proposal to hire choice 1.
Which we did.
Which we did. With council authorization.
I think we need to move forward with this thing and set the parameters to, I don't know, 5 years, no more than 5 years. And let's waive the permit fee. Can't waive the permit, waive the permit fee.
For everybody?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, I think blanket that waiving of the permit fee for sidewalks that need replaced, specifically identified. Because if somebody like Clarence indicated earlier, if somebody wants to take it upon themselves to do theirs earlier, you know, they'd get a little miffed that they found out they could have just waited and gotten by without paying the fee. So this is waive that fee for any replacement of repair of sidewalk, you know, within the city of Greenville. We know that that's our program, and we can just go ahead and waive that throughout.
If I may, Mr. Whitaker, I don't know, I refer to the law director on this. I'm a little reluctant to give a blanket waiver of a whole bunch of stuff, because that'll come around and bite you in the backside real quick.
Well, I think we can
because I think we need to, I don't know.
Don't cover your head.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, but.
Only.
Pardon?
Permit fee.
I was responding to a question, but I have my own reasons for that. As some of you are aware, I lost 4 houses in Dayton due to a tornado.
Yeah.
And City of Dayton Council passed a resolution to get rid of their demolition permits costs. And because they don't have the forms, they can't issue me a demolition permit. So I don't know what it means when you waive it. You know?
Yeah.
You ran out, huh?
We have to get.
No, they just, I can't give you a permit because I don't have proper form for it.
They would still have to go get the form and fill the form out.
Yeah, you have to get the permit. We're just waiving the fee, and I think we specifically identified as such.
And it
We're not
still has
giving
to
a
be
blanket thing for every.
For sidewalk permit only.
Still
Yeah,
has to
just
be
for,
checked out by.
specifically for
Chris.
sidewalk repair and replace, anything covered under this program. And that would encourage, quite frankly, I think it might encourage people to take it upon themselves to do theirs faster, before the cost goes up.
Sure,
If they know that later on they're gonna have to get their permit fee waived, but they can get it waived now, they may do it now. And it's gonna cost them less sidewalks for us to mess with later on.
Right.
And I agree with Clarence 100% on that.
Did you say you'd pay for mine?
I said we waive it.
No,
We're waiving the fee. I'm not paying anybody.
Well, we're not going to have any
Can't have, we're not doing
silly boy.
definite decisions tonight. This is for
Anyway.
the purpose of discussion. We'll have to put some stuff in writing to get to council. What?
One other question, and we haven't discussed, because we really haven't been to this point yet where maybe close to considering this, timeframe. Timeframe to construct.
I mean, once the letter is sent, or
Right, once they receive the resolution of necessity, and then we mail it out certified mail, or we hand deliver, whatever that looks like, we give them us to a certain time, no less than 30 days to complete the work.
I
The-
agree with
The
that.
bad part about it is if there's contractors doing multiple jobs, you know, the contractor may not be able to get to it in the time period.
Well, that's why, is that, when this was originally proposed, it was a date into next year. It was a floating date, I probably said, but, the point is that it was well into next spring, is
It
that.
seemed like it was the spring we were talking
Is that
about.
April?
June of 2020.
Is that April 30th? Is that May 31st?
I'd go
Let
into,
me clarify something here. I'm hearing different things. This resolution of necessity that you want passed, that's not for the cities charging the people to do the work.
No,
This is a resolution to get the work started,
correct.
all of it, any of it,
Correct.
whether you do it yourself or not.
It defines a time in which the homeowner can do the work. And it says no less than 30 days. So you have to give them at least 30 days to, if you're gonna tell them, hey, I need you to do your sidewalk, you have to give them at least 30 days. And we can give them more.
Oh, heaven, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what my proposal is to give them till April 30th, May 31st, whatever date this council wants to choose. And then when that date comes, May 31st, when that date comes, then on June 1st, we can start the process of looking at what has not been done. We compile that. Council would then, just as any other project, give me the authorization to bid the project. We would put it out for bids. We would accept and council would approve the lowest and best bid to complete the work. And then that work would be completed. When the work is done, then we go through the assessment process.
Each of those would be based individually upon the individual property.
Right.
And each of those would require a separate resolution of assessment, Mr. Law Director?
It would all be,
Well, it could be done in mass.
yeah, it would be
Good.
done together.
Okay,
Just like that spreadsheet.
Right.
Whoever did it themselves, they would be taken off that list.
okay.
And then, so we have this bid, we have a bid price, the work is completed. Then we have a total of what we've paid for that work by parcel. And then the property owners are then billed, notified that the work's been done. This is how much you owe. You have to give them a period of time that they can come to the auditor's office and pay their bill. If after that certain period of time, it's not paid, then the auditor moves forward with the steps to take that to the county, or actually council passes a resolution, and then it goes to the county.
But
for
one
assessment.
thing I might mention to you is that if we want to get these assessments done for next year, we have to do that in August, no later than September. So you need, when you consider the time to have them get that done by themselves, we need to have enough time for all those other steps to take place and to assess by late August, early September. So just keep
That's
that in
why I
mind
had-
as well.
That's why I had laid out,
Yeah, no time for-
it was kind of an aggressive time frame to get to that point of being able to assess in September.
What would 90 days be? Or 60 days?
To do what? To get the work done?
Yeah, for them to get the work done from the time they get the letter.
30 days is pretty short.
No, I said 60.
Even 60 with the amount of work to be done, availability of contractors.
Yeah, there's
I
not.
mean, you're talking, in April, we're looking at least 6 months.
Okay.
And then the thought process is that, so after the first of the year, we would start this process with phase 2. So that in phase 2, at some point in 2020, we're ready to pass that resolution necessity by this time of 2020, and we're ready to give those particular property owners 6 months or whatever period of time to get the work done. And so we go every year, we're giving these folks, we're saying, hey, we need you to replace your sidewalk. We're giving you 6 months, which I feel is ample time, or whatever time frame. We need to get this done. If you don't, then the city's gonna come along that following year, and they're gonna, or that, right after that, and get that done for you. And then it's gonna be assessed.
Yeah, I like the idea of giving them a chance to prepare. I mean, you know,
What was the total number of properties in this first group? I didn't see
Unless
it.
it's total at the bottom of that
Didn't see a tally
spreadsheet,
at the
I
bottom.
don't. Are there numbers? You know
No.
how on Excel you have numbers?
No.
It's, okay.
I thought they were
Without my
total
computer, I
together.
couldn't tell you.
First page.
Just have the owner and the.
Any chance count them up by one page and multiply? Sorry.
That's too small for it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there's one place that says 91.
Okay.
So they're numbered.
Right there, it says 91.
91 trees to be removed.
Oh, that's
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah.
That corresponds to the first page. It's got the categories at the top. The grand total is 672,000.
No, I don't have that
How many
spreadsheet.
houses?
Well, how many houses? I don't think that. I don't think it told us. A lot of more houses though. There's
50 per page.
50 per
50 per
page.
page.
Page, and there's, well, 10 pages, that's fine. There's 12 pages, 12, 13 last page.
Okay, who's the math brain?
608.
12 and 50 and then
600.
Okay. So 600 properties, and I know we have doubles, but
Right.
there's roughly 6,000 water meters. I'm just trying to, what percentage of 10? You know, you talk about how big or.
Right.
Yeah. You're real dense area.
Okay.
Homes are close together.
And some, some of the areas, newer areas have sidewalks that are in good shape.
Fewer homes, but
Yeah.
longer spans.
Right.
So, further questions for anyone, or comments by anyone?
I want to revisit this bond conversation then, because I've heard some say yes, some say no.
On the bond,
Yeah.
placing the bond after
Placing
you do the work.
Bond, I mean,
Well,
I guess
there's,
I'd like to hear what everyone thinks again here.
what I was suggesting was based off of the premise of, let's not do this in phases, let's go out gangbusters and try to knock out the entire city.
I meant the
You mean
the
like put a
property owner
levy?
getting a bond.
Oh, that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the bond is an insurance policy to make sure that the work is done
Right,
correctly.
right. I get, no, my question is I heard the discussion a little bit ago, some of us said, yeah, let's waive that, others said, no, we gotta keep it. I mean, because the insurance policy is gonna be, at the end of the day, we're gonna inspect it, and if we don't like it, we're gonna make it to the city standards regardless.
Right.
So at that point, is it
Optional?
necessary, or isn't it?
So they're gonna
Optional?
assess it anyway.
I'm sorry?
They're gonna assess it anyway. If you go back in and if you don't have a bond, if I put my own sidewalk in and you don't like it, you come back in, you tear it out, and you're gonna put it on my taxes anyway. So why have a bond?
Because that bond saves you from paying. It covers the cost.
bond's an
You're no
insurance
longer gonna be
policy.
assessed. We're gonna do the work, we're gonna cash in the bond, and that's gonna pay your bill. So rather than it going to an assessment on your property taxes, the bond's gonna pay for
Said you
it.
was gonna assess me.
Only if you don't pay your bill. That's how assessments work. Remember, when Mr. Burkett was just talking about, you complete the work, you figure out what the actual costs were. I'm gonna send you a bill. You have X amount of days to pay that bill. If you choose not to pay it, then it's going to get assessed onto your property taxes.
Yeah, I
The
understand.
bond, if you had the bond would be cashed in, and that's going to pay your bill. So there's no balance left to be assessed onto your taxes. If you don't get the bond, you paid for the concrete and your time to do it on the front end, and now you're gonna pay for it again when you get your bill.
Everybody needs.
You're ensuring that it's being done right. Right, Kurt? Is that the way to look at it? And if you don't want to take out an insurance policy in case it's not done right, you're going to foot the bill.
The contractor doing Broadway will have a bond at the conclusion of the work, and we will maintain that bond for how many years?
1
1 year.
It's a 10%
And if the
maintenance.
stuff doesn't fail and it doesn't, go bad and all that, then they can release it. If it goes bad, the curbs start to crumble, then we have a recourse.
Go on back and do it right.
Just off the top of your head, Kurt, this is kind of a silly question, but any repairs that are done to sidewalks or any new sidewalks put in, do we have stipulations for reinforcement, i.e. re-rod or fencing or something to give it more stability?
Yes.
and keep things from
Moving.
moving and
Right.
jumping around.
For an example is sidewalks in front of my house. The curb has not settled, but the sidewalks did, simply because of the fill or the subbase and the fact that they did not pin the curb. If they would have pinned the curb
Oh.
and poured the concrete, my sidewalks would not have settled, but they have in that neighborhood all over. So yeah, there are construction standards that they would need to follow. And that's what the pre-inspection is for, is to make sure that adequate gravel's in place, metal's in place.
Anything further from anyone? Are you satisfied with the information that you have?
Everybody happy?
You know, we're not going to make any decision here, but you have given, is there more information that any of you need, or things you need, or want to talk further with anyone? Why, you may do so on your own to try to get this in tow. And then we can proceed at the next council meeting with what parameters you all want to take.
How would you like to discuss this in the future? Would you like me to bring it up as part of my report? Will it be old business?
Wait, I mean, as far as where to go from here?
Yeah, answering if we're going to do the resolution necessity, what the parameters are, start answering those questions so we can put this all together.
Yeah, you could do it in your report. If there's something that, you know, after your explanation, we can always, if council's amicable to it, suspend the rules for the purpose of adding to the agenda if we need to. But I want to make sure everyone understands fully what is happening before you vote on it. And if you don't know, get a hold of someone. Anything further from anyone else? Or is that satisfactory with
Absolutely, absolutely.
anyone else?
Works for me.
I'm happy.
I'm so happy you're happy. Okay. There's nothing further.
Motion
There's
to adjourn.
one right there.
Motion to adjourn by Mrs. Howdeshell. Call the roll, please.
Homichelle?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Thank you all. We're adjourned.